obviously it was parody, but it gives a good example. Back when my business partner, Dr. Tharp, and I would go out for lunch for me would be 6 or more tacos from Taco Bell, or a steak and potatoes at the Claim Jumper. That of itself isn't bad, but what was bad is I would go back to the office and I'd have it 2 or 3 times a week of breaking open a package of these. How many of you guys love these things? I'm going to give these to the kids. This is the last one.
All right.
And what would happen is I'd snack on those between patients. By the end of the day, I come to find out that the package was gone. I'd eaten the entire package. And then it was time to go home and start thinking about dinner. And to make that story even more crazy is when I never heard the Holy Spirit talk to me like that. To make that story even crazier, when we'd go back, and every few months, Dr. Tharp and I would draw our blood and send it off to the lab and to check our cholesterol. And it'd come back the results, and my LDLs, which are your bad cholesterol, were low, and my HDLs, which are your good cholesterol, were high. So I really had no reason or motivation to change my eating habits. Dr. Tharp would have find to say, at that point your metabolism is just evil. But time marches on, and as we grow older, though growing older for some of us is purely physical and not maturity-wise, but as we grow older, our bodies change and the way it processes foods change. So we need to think about taking better care of our bodies. But physical health is not just about what we eat. It includes so many other things we do and don't do. It's talk about getting enough rest, getting enough sleep, drinking plenty of water, smoking, taking medication. And then the big one, the E word, the one that makes many people's skin crawl, and that would be exercise. Paul often compared the Christian life to athletics, reminding believers that they had to stay in shape in order to be good witnesses. I always like the Phillps paraphrase of 1 Timothy 4:7. It says, "Take the time and trouble to keep yourself physically fit." Take the time and trouble to keep yourself physically fit. There's a wonderful biblical example of physical fitness, and that's in the book of Acts 8:26-39. And it's the story of Philip and the Ethiopian eunuch. Philip was prompted by the Holy Spirit to walk along the road between Jerusalem and Gaza, and we're not told how far he had to walk. But when he saw this eunuch, the Holy Spirit told him to talk to this eunuch. Well, the eunuch's in a chariot, and the chariot's running alongside, and they're pulled by horses, so it's running pretty good. And Philip had to run alongside the chariot. Well, he had to speak to the eunuch and talk to the eunuch before he invited him in. Well, running and talking at the same time, that exhibits good cardiorespiratory fitness. Philip was physically and spiritually fit and able to accomplish the mission from the Holy Spirit. The result of Philip's readiness was the salvation and baptism of that eunuch. Only God knows all the ramifications of that one event when that Ethiopian went back to the queen and served her. Now notice a few things that Philip didn't do. First of all, he didn't argue about the Holy Spirit. He didn't say, "You know what, that's great, but I may not be able to run that fast. Can you just ask the eunuch to pull up alongside me and I'd be happy to share Christ?" Or he didn't say, "I really don't have time for this, but if you'll meet me at Starbucks tomorrow afternoon, I'd be happy to share with him." No, he just did it as the Spirit told him to do. Second, Philip was not gasping for air. How do we know this? Because he was able to talk to the eunuch. The eunuch understood him and then invited him into the chariot. And then third, Philip didn't ask him to go out of his way. The Holy Spirit prompted him to do. This is what he did. Now, how often do we use excuses or try to negotiate with the Holy Spirit in the call to minister? God equipped us with everything we need to fulfill the ministry that He called each one of us to do. He gave us a body to be designed to be strong and fit and respond to His call. But many times, some of us find ourselves weak and diseased and fatigued. Although some of us may have physical limitations, the underlying point is we can all strive to be as fit as possible regardless of those limitations. When we're not good in physical shape, we cripple our ministry effectiveness. And surprisingly, the Bible gives very few remedies for healing disease. What it does is lay out a lifestyle that, if led, will help us avoid disease. I once read a quote by Edward Stanley that said that primarily, if we say that we don't have time for physical fitness, eventually we'll have to find time for illness. That's kind of a scary thought. Now, putting stuff into our body is bad, and not exercising, but there's many other ways where we're not treating our body as a temple. A friend of mine is a pastor of a fast-growing congregation, successful congregation. I'm not talking about Abel right now. But he had the lifestyle to show it. He was running from one appointment to the next, sharing the gospel. He lived by the slogan, better to burn out than to rust out. But he just didn't expect that rust, that burn, to begin in his stomach when his doctor told him that he had an ulcer. And what it turned out to be was like poor diet, lack of exercise, 40 extra pounds, high blood pressure, poor eating habits, and the workaholic lifestyle of a typical pastor. He'd set himself up for many more years of bad health. And he told me his doctor told him, hey, guess what? You get to be one of my chronic patients. He told me, he said, you know, at that point, not only did the doctor get my attention, but God got my attention. See, I was under the assumption that my body was my own. I assumed wrong. It's not. God owns it. Remember that verse earlier in 1 Corinthians we talked about? The physical part of you is not some piece of property belonging to the spiritual part of you. God owns the whole works. In the very early years of our marriage, because my wife's here now, so she's going to kill me for sharing these stories, but I do what I do. Susan and I were definitely caught up in that fast lane lifestyle. We both had very demanding careers, and a 65-hour work week was not uncommon. Now let me make this clear. When I say 65 hours, that's not 65 hours combined, that's 65 hours apiece. That's how unhealthy it was. There were many times 5 o'clock would roll around and we'd head home and go to the grocery store together, and we would only go down one aisle, the microwave aisle, and we'd grab the meals that we hadn't burned ourselves out on. We'd go home, put our groceries away, and then go back to our individual offices. For us, meals fell into two categories. We could be microwave or eating out. I remember one morning I'd take those boxes of microwave pancakes, the frozen ones. I found that I could save time. I didn't have to take them out of the box. I could just open the box, open the bag, and throw the whole thing in the microwave. And it saved time. But I remember one morning I put them in, and I think it was like 2.5 minutes was the cooking time. And tell me if you can relate to this. I turned it on 2.5 minutes, and at 2 minutes and 26 seconds, I said, you know what? I don't have 4 seconds left. And I turned the dial off. And how many of you guys have ever shaved time off your microwave for the last 2 seconds, 3 seconds, okay? You know, I know life is short and we need to value each minute, but you know what, that's how unhealthy my perspective was at the time. I remember when we moved out of that apartment, after we packed everything up and we cleaned the apartment, we went in the kitchen and we opened up, I don't remember which one of us opened up the oven to see if it was, make sure it's clean. And we realized that we'd lived there for 2 years and we'd never even used it, we never turned it on. I don't know about you guys, but for me and my family, it was easy to get caught up in that chaotic lifestyle. Between jobs, family, keeping a house, keeping a yard, those can consume all the hours in a waking week. Then if you had your kids' soccer games and softball games and after-school activities, is it no wonder that it becomes a juggling act? And is it not surprising that we don't become fast food junkies? You know, not only do we want fast meals, we also want fast vitamins. Instead of changing our diet, we're looking for a miracle cure in a bottle. You know, everybody's got something to say, oh, this is going to cure you. Here's another clip from I Love Lucy. Watch this, where she's looking for a miracle cure.
Well, I'm Robertson, the director.
Oh, how do you do? I'm Lucille McGillicuddy.
Ricky sure knows how to fix it.
Oh, thank you.
You know you like it?
Well, I think so.
Well, let's run through it.
All right.
Now you stand right over here.
Yes.
Now let's try it once, and remember, be bright and vivacious.
Yes.
All right. Maury, will you stand by the script, please? All right.
Hello, friends. I'm your vitamin vitamin girl. Are you tired, run down, listless? Do you have about a party? Are you unpopular? The answer to all your problems is in this little bottle.
Now you pick up the bottle.